The title for our group project is The Implications of the COVID-19 Pandemic Outbreak on the investment banks in Malaysia and its response in overcoming these implications. As we all know, on the 18th of March, MCO is taking place in order to contain the COVID-19 outbreak in Malaysia. All banks are closed and investment banks are also impacted. In the report, we had focused on three main points about the title. The first one, the effects of COVID-19 to investment bankings. 2, solutions that the banks had come up so far and how does it help. And number 3, the future preparation banks should do if this kind of event happen again, and how will it help to secure the investment banking system.
Introduction. Investment banks are important assets in the Malaysian financial system. They are specialized in large and complex financial transactions. They could also act as a broker or a financial advisor for cooperating organizations or institutional clients. Investment banks became popular due to the increase of interest in stocks and capital raises from both corporate companies and independent companies. As an investment bank is capable in generating the most revenue while still staying within the regulatory requirements, it will know the best way to produce effective financial models for companies to follow and gain the most profit. During the recent COVID-19 pandemic, investment banks have managed to survive from an economic perspective due to the increase in short-term trading. However, it is yet to be determined the severity of the impact because in past crises, the Malaysian economy suffered from major recession, which in turn negatively affected the investment banks. In the struggle to recover, obtain sufficient funds and providing sustainable financial investment model for companies, the efficiency of the entire banking structure is affected. Therefore, new strategies need to be analyzed and implemented to help deal with economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. In conclusion, these research's objectives are to identify the implications of COVID-19 on investment banking in Malaysia, the effects on the Malaysian economic growth, as well as providing possible solutions that help ensure the stability of investment banks.
The problem statement of this study is the implication of COVID-19 through Malaysia's economy, especially the investment in banking system. The study is focused more on how the investment in bank has affected the economy, either from foreign or local investment. Before the pandemic, investment bank has become one of huge contribution towards the economy. Nowadays, the foreign investment need to cut or hold their investment from going to the Malaysia because of the COVID-19. Not only just them, our local investment also facing the same problems, whereby because the MCO that started on 18 March 2020 made some of the people cannot go to work, so it hard for them to have their income and also to continue their investment.
Implication of the COVID-19 pandemic to the investment banking in Malaysia. First, risk from non-performing loans and possible investment bank damages. Bank will have the possibility of running non-performing loan. In extreme cases, this loan can severely influence the bank's performance. Investment banks will be negatively impacted as investment banks are to receive damages via credit loss, decrease in business revenues, and the decline in the values of other investments. Second, deleverages and decrease in investment bank productivity. Investment bank experiences deleverages during financial crisis. If a bank refuses the opportunity to deleverage during a crisis and experiences a tremendous amount of debt, the investment bank may have exposed itself to an increased risk of loss and might lead to bankruptcy in worst cases. With no long-term investment ongoing, investment banks will decrease productivity as the bank will experience a reduction in real income. If this condition prolongs, investment banks will face negative growth and cause its GDP or gross domestic product to decrease.
Moving on to research question 2. What have banks done to recover their investment while the pandemic is still going? Firstly, Bank Negara Malaysia has cut the overnight policy rate. This is to decrease the interest rates, which will encourage transactions within banks and keep investment activities going. Lower OPR also means higher net interest margin, which is a good sign of a profitable institution. Besides that, Bank Negara Malaysia has loosened some regulatory requirements, for example, the net stable funding ratio from 100% to 80% only. This is to keep banks in operation and help banks to absorb the impact from loan repayment moratoriums. Thus, BNM's measure to cut the OPR and loosen the regulatory requirements help banks to minimize the damage caused by the MCO.
Actions taken to prepare for future crises in securing investment systems. A. Using online meeting platforms. The investment bank should develop online seminars as an ongoing platform for their meetings and consultations. The online platforms such as Microsoft Teams have currently become a necessary tool in businesses and education institutions. Hence, the banking sector should be able to use it effectively. Examples of banks using the online platform are CIMB Bank collaborating with Shopmatic to organize 4 free webinars for small and medium enterprises. Another is Bank Negara Malaysia organizing a webinar about the restructuring and rescheduling of financial obligations for small and medium enterprises. It would be even better to develop their own platforms to reduce security risks.
Now let's discuss on the overview of the project content and recap on a few interesting points. Due to COVID-19, economy in Malaysia will take time to recover. The investment banks are more vulnerable compared to commercial banks during this period of time. Let's take an example. There's a higher chance of people will go to commercial banks to use the money transfer service compared to going to an investment banks to make an investment. Also, there's impact on the leverage of the bank. The leverage will help to decrease the debt, but also at the same time it will decrease the productivity. One of the most instant solution is by OPR, which stands for Overnight Policy Rate. Bank Negara Malaysia had decreased it 4 times this year. OPR will help reduce loan interest to appeal people on making more investment due to less risk. Now let's talk about the future improvement that investment banks may do if there's a global pandemic like this ever happen again. The investment banks should review the investment policy. A few changes are bound to be made to suit the new normal in Malaysia. The investment policies should be accommodating in a way that it is accessible during lockdown or personal isolation for social distancing. We believe that by doing this, the investment banks can show their high level of competency and attract more investors. Lastly, our report may help the investment banks to stay relevant during this pandemic or any economic challenges in the future. It is true that they had implemented good solutions to overcome this challenge, but still few necessary improvements that they need to take. Also, it will help investors in choosing the right time and investment banks to make their investment. It also may help they know the risk of investments. That's all for today. Goodbye. Practice social distancing and stay safe.